I got another question from Steven, and this was related to the previous video in which I talked about motivation in the long term for martial arts. Steven asked if I had any success with young people, motivating them to train like we do, so for the long term, and being motivated to train for more than just the attention span of a fruit fly, is how I like to call it. Let me say a few quick and to finish his comment, he said that most of his students are older than him. A few things. First, I don't teach a kids class. The minimum age for my class that I teach publicly is 15 years old, and I do teach children, but only in private lessons. So with private clients, I've taught children for many decades, but I don't do it publicly. Why? Because you can't teach children and adults at the same time. Doesn't work. Tried it. Doesn't work. What you want to do is separate classes depending on age brackets, because children learn better in certain ways at certain ages, and it differs greatly, especially when you compare it to how adults learn best. So I don't teach children. So let's expand it to teenagers, and I think that's more relevant to what I do. In my class, often teenagers show up, and there are some differences in the sense that compared to how things were when I was their age, it was like there was not a lot of choice in martial arts. Now there's like a gym almost on every corner of the street. But back then there was not a lot of choice. So you went, if you were interested in martial arts, to the closest dojo or gym that you could find. Whatever they had on offer there, that's pretty much what you did. Some people traveled, but again, the 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 supply was relatively limited. So you didn't really get to, like say like, okay, well, this class sucks, so I'll go to the other dojo and do karate over there. Yeah, now it's you've got a lot more choice, so it's different in my opinion, the mindset by default, simply because of the availability of teaching and training opportunities. There's just so much out there. That's one thing. The other thing, times have changed. There was no internet when I grew up. Like the joke that is going around now is like a father gets asked by his children, like, what was it like for you to grow up, at our age, without internet and cell phones. He says, okay, so he takes off their cell phones, kicks them outside, and says, come back after dark. Come back as soon as it gets dark. And that's true. That was kind of what our youth was like. So combine all that with the fact that the world's become a very small place. We had to watch the news or go to the library if we wanted to know something or study about something. Now any teenager just opens his phone and he starts to search, and he finds all the human knowledge accumulated from over the centuries. It's at your fingertips. So young people today have a very different life. A lot more distractions. Social media, obviously, very much a distraction. And there's so much other stuff that is fun to do, whether it's watching movies with friends like Netflix and chill. Didn't exist. You wanted to see a movie. I had to go to the capital. I had to go to Brussels to watch a current movie because there were no cinemas anywhere near me. Or we could see the movie from like either last year or the year after in like the rec center, which would do movie nights. So again, very limited. Now, why would any teenager want to do martial arts if there's just so much other stuff going on? And I haven't even talked about video games. So I take that into account when a young person comes to my class. They show up and I'm like, you could be somewhere else right now. So at the very least, you're here to see if this is for you. My starting position is that we don't know. Let's find out if this is something that you might enjoy. And then my job is to, first of all, show you and explain to you what we do here and present it in such a way that it doesn't either scare somebody off, but it also doesn't misrepresent it. What that means is, for instance, with my MMA class, I start every new student off with a few basics. 5 minutes of working on a basic stance and basic footwork, and then we start with the first drill, which teaches them 9 different techniques. By the end of the class, most people have done half of the drill or even the entire drill. They haven't done it perfectly, but they've been exposed to so much more. My drill is very, very specific. There is so much in there that it takes a long time to explain it. So, and I'll eventually do videos on my drills over on MMA Formula, which is my MMA site and YouTube channel and so on. But the point is that I teach them differently than the way we learned, which was shut up and do what the teacher says. We're going to do, 100 left and right kicks. You're going to do that. No explanation. Just do it. Now, what I do is I give young people a challenge. Like, this is the first drill. This is what we're going to do today. It's all we're going to do today. But you'll see that it's quite a big chunk to digest. And then I tell them, like, look, it's not just the fact that you're doing the drill. It's that you're doing it in the specific way that I tell you to. And this has to do with teaching methodology, which is very specific in my class and personal training. In that the goal is to give you many tools as we're learning that first drill, tools that you'll only understand fully much, much later on and throughout the progress of the following weeks, months, and even years. I will refer back to the basic drill and say, remember when I said to do it this way? Here is that concept again, but this time it is demonstrated in a very different fashion. But you already know this conceptually. And that speeds up learning on the long term. But it also makes them understand that from the very first class that, okay, there's a lot going on here. There's a lot to learn. And that is what I try to show them, while at the same time I'm showing them that they can make progress relatively quickly if they put in the work. Putting the work means listening to what the coach says, starting with that. And during class, I show them the first technique and so on, and then I say, look, practice that. I'll be back in a few minutes. If I turn around and from the corner of my eye, I see that they're not training, nothing I can do with that. If somebody doesn't want to train, you can't make them. This is not the military. The other thing is that if I see that they're doing that, then I try to give small corrections and show them, like, okay, you're doing this, do it this way. Instead, this is better. And I always explain why. And this is a big one. What I've noticed is that young people nowadays, they need to be told why. Not everybody, obviously, there's always exceptions, but overall, on average, I would say that this is more important than it used to be. Again, comparing to when I was their age, it's just like, shut up and do what the teacher says, and if you got an explanation, you were lucky. And now if they don't know why they need to do something, very often they're resistant. Okay, I'll explain them. And I'll tell them, like, this is why you need to do that. This is why it's important. And sometimes I can show them. I'll tell them, like, okay, punch me in the face. You just learned a right cross, punch me in the face. And then they do, and I make a miss. And then as I slip to my left, as I throw the right cross, I tap them in the face with my right hand because they dropped their left hand. They didn't guard when they were punching. And I'm like, this is why I told you to keep your fist high, because I can hit you back if you do that. It's not like you when you punch, the whole world freezes. No, people can hit you at the same time. That is why you need to keep your hand up. And then they get it. And I'm like, right. Remember that I said that you have to do it for every single punch, not just a right cross. With the jab, I want your right hand here. With the left hook, I want your right hand here again, and so on. So they start understanding that there are principles, guiding principles that are present throughout everything we do. And I explain those as well. And then I tell them, like, look, this is going to come back over and over, that I give you a principle, that I give you a concept, and then it's going to manifest in many different ways. The only way for you to be able to do something with those principles and concepts is to train hard now, so you have a basic understanding and basic skills in applying them. And as we progress in the training, you will be able to expand upon that knowledge base, as it's going to be the foundation for everything that comes after. And this is like first class that I say that stuff. The other thing I do is at the end of it, at the end of class, I ask how it was. And typically, if they're interested, they'll like, okay, this was fun. If they're not interested, there's not a lot of feedback, and I'm like, I know that they're probably that it wasn't for them, which is fine. You don't have to come to my class. If you're not interested in martial arts, please go do something else. And then I tell them if I notice that they're interested and that it was an enjoyable class for them, I say, look, this is difficult stuff. It's going to take a long while to get as good as some of the people who have been training here for years on end. Because during the class, I often show, like, look what they're doing over there, and then I point to something that the person, the young person that comes for his first class, that they were doing wrong. So look at the footwork. Do you see the difference with what they're doing and what you're doing? Yes, fine, okay. Now you know how to fix it. Okay, keep drilling. So we always get back to showing that there's a path to progress that is right there in front of them. And I tell them, like, look, see that guy over there? He's been training for 3 years. He did that drill just like you did just today. He started the exact same way. Look at him now. So it's not impossible. And some people are a little bit faster than others in the uptake. Doesn't matter. You go at your own pace. I'll be here helping you, correcting you. But just keep going, and this is the future if you stick with it. So I try to encourage them, especially when, at first it's not working out well, and tell them that, look, it's fine. This is your first class. Don't worry about it. We'll work on it, and eventually you'll get this. So I try to be encouraging in that way, and show them, like, okay, there's no need to panic. Once they get to a basic level, everybody works solo, and then they can maybe hit the pads a little bit, or a partner holding the gloves. But eventually, one of the next things we do once they start getting competent is like, right, we're going to spar. I'm not going to punch you. I'm not going to hit you. You can use all the techniques you learned. You can hit me as hard as you like. And obviously, at first, for beginners, that's not very successful. And then after the end of the round, we do 3 minutes of that. And I'm like, okay, so how does that feel? I'm like, this is crap. I didn't land a single punch on you. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, excellent. This is when you realize that there's differences between training modalities. You doing shadow boxing is not the same as you hitting the pads or the heavy bag, is not the same as you hitting a partner who's defending, is not the same as you doing a drill like that, like I just described, and then working freestyle with somebody who can do whatever he wants to defend, and you can defend any way you want. So when it's actual sparring, there's a dimension between those things as well. And then they understand that. And then I refer back to, remember that guy that I said had started with the same basic drill like you did? Look at him spar now. You can do this too. So it's not about encouraging, just be positive for being positive, because that's just how we want to encourage people. No, it's about, there's a method here. If you follow the methodology, if you follow the path to progress, you will make progress, providing you do what I tell you to. You don't have to. You can do it your way, but I will tell you, like, it's not going to work as well as the path that I put in front of you. And then I often ask them, it's like, you're going to have to trust me here. If you don't trust me, then I don't really see why you're here to begin with. Then you have to go with another coach or another teacher who you do trust. But if you put a little bit of trust in me, I can guarantee you'll make progress. I can't guarantee a time frame, because that depends on you. When I was their age, I would come home after training and I'd train some more. And the day after, I'd train again, because I was afraid I'd forget what I just learned. If that's you, when you're a young person today, it's great. You're going to make progress much faster than many others, regardless of talent and skill when you start. Right, so that's it, Stephen. That's what I do. And again, giving positive reinforcement in my class, it's not about, rah-rah, cheerleading stuff. It's just simple phrases like, okay, don't worry about it when I notice frustration. It's not like, I'm just cheerleading them on, but it's more along the lines of like, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. You will eventually be able to do this. Just give yourself just some time. It's your first class or it's your fifth class. Don't worry, you'll get there. This takes time. You're learning something that is not easy to do. So don't beat yourself up on it. Just show up every class and give me the best you've got. And no matter how much that it is on each individual day, but just do the best you can, and I'll help you along the way, and eventually you'll make progress, and more fun stuff to learn is waiting for you. Well, that's it. Okay, folks, keep the questions coming. Talk to you next time. Bye.